Let's go Lions! The week has started off busy behind the scenes at the Detroit Lions, and Brad Holmes is working day and night to structure a quality team for next season. We know that the Detroit Lions are a strong team and have a great chance of reaching the Super Bowl. In the last few seasons, we have come very close to the target, and this has increased in me the desire and dream of seeing the Lions lifting the trophy. Will we see that this season? I believe so. If you also want to see the Lions in the Super Bowl, press the like button hard. If possible, write something like, "Go Lions, I believe." Now let's talk about some changes and movements. First, let's talk about the biggest surprise, the signing of cornerback DJ Reed. The Lions lost Carlton Davis in free agency, and let's be realistic. Most fans expected a downgrade at the position, but Brad Holmes made a move that could actually be an upgrade. Reed, coming over from the New York Jets, is a physical, aggressive corner who embodies exactly what Dan Campbell wants in his secondary. He may not have Davis's size, but what he lacks in height, he makes up for in tenacity. This move wasn't just smart, it was cost-effective. The Lions got a player who might be even better than Davis, and they did it for a cheaper price. This is an A-plus signing. But what do you think? Did Detroit really win this trade? Let us know your grades in the comments. Now, shifting gears to the trenches, the Lions added defensive tackle Roy Lopez from the Arizona Cardinals. Now, is this the kind of flashy move that gets fans hyped? Not at all. But is it necessary? Absolutely. Detroit's defensive line was a mess last year, especially with injuries to key players like Aleem McNeil and Levi Onwuzurike. Lopez is here to be a rotational piece, a run stopper who can help keep the defense from getting gashed up the middle. It's not the big-name signing some fans were hoping for, but it's a solid depth move. I'm giving this one a B. What about you? Next up, the Lions signed linebacker Grant Stewart from the Indianapolis Colts. Let's be honest, this isn't a move that shakes up the NFC North, but when you look deeper, there's something interesting here. Stewart is essentially taking over Jalen Reeves-Maybin's role, and he might actually be an upgrade. He's a high-motor guy who excels on special teams, and we all know how much Dan Campbell values that. Is he a game changer on defense? Number. But for what he brings to the table, I'd give this one a B. It's a classic Lions move. Tough, gritty, and practical. Now, here's where things get murky. The signing of quarterback Kyle Allen. This one raises a lot of questions. The Lions brought in Allen as a backup to Jared Goff. But what does this mean for Hendon Hooker? Allen's career numbers aren't exactly inspiring. 26 touchdowns to 23 interceptions, a near 50-50 split. He's a backup, plain and simple. But does this signing suggest that the team isn't sold on Hooker as Goff's long-term successor? That's the real question. Right now, this move feels like a placeholder at best, and because of that, I can't go higher than a C-. One signing that does have potential to impact the offense in a real way is tight end Kenny Yeboah. He's not here to be a flashy receiving target. His job is to block, and that's exactly why this could be a sneaky good move. The Lions struggled in short yardage situations last year, and having a powerful run-blocking tight end could be a game changer. Picture this. 3rd and 1. Instead of some overcomplicated play call, the Lions just smash it up the middle behind Yeboah. That's what this move is all about. I'm giving it a B because it could quietly make a difference. Now let's talk about the guys the Lions brought back. Levi Onwuzurike re-signing, that's a B+. He played really well last year, and keeping him in the rotation alongside Roy Lopez and Aleem McNeil makes perfect sense. Tim Patrick, that's an A+ move. He's a fantastic wide receiver 3, reliable, and could push for even bigger numbers this season. But then, we have Marcus Davenport.
And here's where things get frustrating. On paper, Davenport is a great addition, but reality tells a different story. Injuries have been his biggest issue. He played just 2 games last season. The contract is low risk, which is the only reason I'm not completely down on the move, but I have to give this one a D. There's just too much uncertainty. Overall, when you look at this entire free agency period, I'd give the Lions a B-. There were some fantastic moves, some head-scratchers, and some that still leave a few holes on the roster. The biggest issue? The lack of a veteran pass rusher. The draft is coming, and that might be where they address it. But right now, this defense still has a big question mark when it comes to pressuring the quarterback. Now, here's the part where you come in. What do you think of the Lions' free agency moves? Which signings do you love? Which ones leave you concerned? And what's your final grade? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's break this down together. And let's not stop there, because this conversation is just getting started. If we're looking at what the Lions have done so far, we also have to talk about what they haven't done. And that's where things get a little frustrating. One of the biggest concerns coming out of last season was depth on the defensive line. And while Roy Lopez is a solid rotational piece, he's not a game changer. Alan McNeil is still recovering from injury, and Marcus Davenport, well, we already talked about his availability issues. The Lions need another pass rusher, period. They can't afford to go into the season hoping that Aiden Hutchinson can do it all by himself. If there's one thing we saw in the playoffs, it's that when the Lions' pass rush couldn't get home, the secondary got exposed. And yes, DJ Reed is a fantastic addition, but no cornerback can cover forever. If the front seven can't consistently create pressure, it's going to be a problem. And that brings us to the question, what's next? Because if the Lions don't address this in free agency, then all eyes are on the NFL draft. Does that mean Detroit is all in on landing an edge rusher early? Or is there a plan to bring in another veteran before training camp? This is the biggest hole left on the roster, and it's the one thing keeping me from giving this free agency class a higher grade. Let's pivot back to offense for a second, because there are some really underrated moves that could pay off big. Tim Patrick might end up being one of the most important signings of the offseason. He's coming off an injury, but when healthy, he's a reliable target with great hands. And when you look at the Lions' offense last year, one of the biggest struggles, outside of short yardage situations, was having a consistent third option in the passing game. Amon-Ra St. Brown is elite. Sam Laporta is a star. But adding Patrick as a WR3 gives Jared Goff another weapon, and it keeps defenses from keying in on the top two options. If he stays healthy, this could be a steal. Speaking of the offense, the Kyle Allen signing still leaves a weird taste in my mouth. It's not that he's a bad player, he's a serviceable backup, but the bigger issue is what it suggests about the Lions' confidence in Hendon Hooker. If Hooker was viewed as the clear backup and potential successor to Goff, then why bring in Allen at all? Is this just about competition in camp? Or is there something behind the scenes that we don't know yet? This is one of those moves that doesn't seem like a big deal now, but could mean a lot depending on how things play out. Now, let's go back to one of the more underrated re-signings. Derek Barnes. Look, I get it, he doesn't get a ton of hype, but the guy has quietly improved every year, and before his injury, he was playing at a really high level. A lot of fans seem to be sleeping on this move, but keeping him around is huge for linebacker depth. The Lions have done a great job of building a defense full of guys who fit their culture, and Barnes is one of them. This re-signing gets an A- from me. And then there's the case of Dan Skipper. This guy is exactly the kind of player that embodies the grit and toughness that Dan Campbell loves. He's not a star, but he's reliable. He knows his role, and he fills it well. Having him as depth on the offensive line is a move that won't make headlines, but will absolutely matter when injuries hit. That's a solid B+ signing in my book. So let's put it all together. What's the final takeaway from the Lions' free agency moves? They got better. There's no doubt about that. Go Lions!